to assist in the future, and that's in work. But that's what's happening. We don't have the money to put into streets.
Now, if we get more snow like we did about 3 years ago and you guys didn't plow our street down there, if my house catches on fire, or if somebody in the cul-de-sac gets sick and need the aid car, and if they can't get in there, whose fault is it? No, don't blame God for stupidity. Second is stormwater.
Yeah.
How can you come up with stormwater when 2/3 of the streets here do not have storm drains and
We
stuff
will
in it?
address that issue as part of the agenda, and we have a presentation on it. And once you see the presentation, then
And since your attorney's here, what did you do about the handicap parking? What we discussed over a year ago, Joe.
number one, that's a state enforcement. I don't think we actually have it in our ordinances at all unless you build a new building, and it's part of the approval. I did go see John. I showed him what he needed. He actually has a handicap parking space. He needs to paint some stripes on there and put a sign up.
What about the businesses? It's federal, state, and local governments. And they don't cost the city not a dime for the handicap
Except for
parking.
John Lee's Texaco, I think all the businesses have
No,
handicap.
no. I'll walk through every one of them businesses down with you, Joe, and 2/3 of them don't have it. They better be getting them, because I'm just hoping for the day for this city to go broke, because of your stupidity.
Well, we thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, then we'll move on to the first part of old business and a litigation update by Margaret King.
I remember when we were last here for the litigation update. It was January 10th. So, just quickly, as you recall,
Margaret, there's no recording going on.
It's not live, yeah,
Okay.
she was waving at me and saying something.
can you hear me better though?
No.
No? Okay. I'll just be loud. All right, so we went through on, I believe it was January 10th, 2012, the various lawsuits and litigation that were going on with the city. To recap with the the outstanding litigation, there's what we call the second block lawsuit, the first Forbes lawsuit, the third block lawsuit, the fourth block lawsuit, and the recall petition. So with respect to the second block lawsuit, I understand that's, William Crittenden is representing Ms. Block in that case, and Jeff Myers is representing the city in that case. I understand that depositions have been scheduled for March 5th for Laura Kelly and for Ms. Block. And that is the only update I have on that case. On the first Forbes lawsuit, as you recall, that was dismissed by the Superior Court, appealed by Ms. Forbes to the Court of Appeals. We are still waiting to have, it's been fully briefed, and we're still waiting to have oral arguments scheduled. We have not heard anything from the Court of Appeals on that case, so we're still just waiting. On the third block lawsuit, that is the lawsuit that was stayed pending the Court of Appeals decision in the Forbes case, so that's the same status quo. The fourth block lawsuit, which was filed in November, was dismissed by the Superior Court on February 3rd, 2012, for the plaintiff's failure to comply with court orders. The judge granted the city sanctions in the amount of roughly $7,000 for the failure to comply with the court order, and ordered an additional $900 for the city's cost for bringing the motion to dismiss. So that case was dismissed and a judgment was entered. So that one's done. On the, recall petition. See, that was heard on December 1st and dismissed by the court, finding no factual or legal sufficiency on any of the charges. The city requested at that hearing to have a hearing to recover its attorney's fees expended. In defending that motion, the court agreed to set a hearing. That hearing has been rescheduled twice due to scheduling conflicts. It is currently scheduled for March 12th, 2012. As you recall, I think it was November 29th, we came to the city council to get authorization under RCW 4.96.041 sub 3 to have the council waive any potential conflict and authorize representation and expenditure of money to represent the mayor in the recall hearing. The mayor wanted me to just update you that it's being suggested that somehow that did not include the city filing a motion to recover its cost in defending the mayor in that hearing. So, want to give the council an opportunity to clarify if that in fact you somehow wanted the city to defend the mayor but not file motions related to the defense, or if you somehow limited that representation. Mayor wanted to give you an opportunity.
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
It doesn't really make sense to me either. Our position clearly is that when you authorize the expenditure of funds to defend the mayor in the recall, that's defending him in the recall. Whether it be the recall, an appeal, motions related to the recall, it's all part of the same thing. You can't really have a motion for attorney's fees that wouldn't relate to the underlying cause. But the mayor just wanted to.
Why wouldn't the city want to try to recover costs that it spent in defending against the claim that is dismissed with prejudice, if I'm not mistaken, right? So, I mean, it's almost common sense, you would think, right? I mean, anybody else would file a motion to try to recover costs, why wouldn't the city?
I believe it's part of the defense of the recall. I'm just giving an opportunity in case.
I think Davey and I were the only two here at the time.
Right.
I personally, I mean, I don't recall stating that you can, go ahead and represent the mayor at a recall hearing, but make sure not to file any motions to recover fees. I don't remember saying that.
It would seem more to include it.
Well, certainly, when you're defending the city in cases, that usually, or I shouldn't say usually, it would include filing whatever motions are necessary to adequately defend the city on whatever case it's defending itself in. I was just making sure, for the mayor's request, that you're aware that those are the statements being made, and if you wanted to clarify your position, or if you felt a need to, you certainly have that option.
Well, you said that there's suggestions being made that wasn't the direction we wanted to go. Is that,
Or that somehow that you were only limiting the representation to somehow the recall hearing itself and not seeking reimbursement of your fees.
so is that the argument on why it's been continued twice, or
No, it was
are we
continued.
talking about the same case? There's too many of them for me to remember.
Yeah, the hearing on these sanctions was scheduled at the recall hearing. It was actually part of the city's briefing. It was continued to another hearing so that the court could consider just the issue of the request by the city for the attorney's fees and the reimbursement. And that's been continued twice due to some scheduling conflicts. I believe the first time maybe on the city, I can't remember if it was a deposition conflict, and then the second time at the request of Ms. Block.
Do you want a consensus or a motion, or what's,
Yeah.
going on?
I think, So I don't believe I was a member of the council at the time, but I think part of the discussion has probably centered around the concept of when you approve an action, you don't necessarily approve going in full duration. You might approve the first set of litigation, and then if it comes to an appeal, you might have to reconsider if you want to extend and expend for that. There was some discussion to that effect, I know, because I made those comments as a citizen, but not as a councilman. I wasn't aware that anything had been limited, but to that end, I will make a motion that the city make an attempt to recover their costs in this litigation.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions for Margaret? You have to go to Sultan now, don't you?
Yeah, I do. If there's any other questions regarding, status of the litigation that I can talk about in public, I'm happy to. Have any questions?
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're having a public hearing, and there's some magic words you have to say. Oh, okay, is this backwards? We're opening about a stormwater utility, but haven't made any presentation. Shouldn't we flip 1 and 2, so that when we have a public hearing, they know what they're hearing about?
I would suggest that. I would suggest doing that.
Okay, well then, let's swap 1 and 2, and let's go ahead through the discussion of the stormwater, the stuff that you and I worked out, and so that we'll see what the framework of it is, and then we can have the public hearing.
A combine 1 and 2 is what I would do.
Combine 1 and 2?
Yeah, I would do the discussion of the stormwater utility and proposed ordinances, an introduction to the public hearing, and then open it up to a public hearing.
Okay, well, that's a change to the agenda. Do we have a motion to make that change?
I'll make a motion that we make that change.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we'll pull up the stormwater utility.
Thank you.
No, that's fine. Just write it down. Try the, we're with the examples. Yeah, pull that up the screen. Okay, what we did, we took a look at, Bob took a look at a lot of different ordinances for stormwater that's going on around. There's 2 levels of storm, or 3 levels actually of stormwater. One is if you are like Sultan and you have a sewer system that's called a point discharge, and you're into all sorts of federal rules and regulations for obvious reasons. I mean, Sultan's been deemed, as Arlington and Snohomish, for dumping poop in the river during heavy rains. And so there's a whole lot of stuff they have to go through. When you have smaller cities like Gold Bar that are on septic, we don't have point sources the same way, and we're not yet involved in the big federal stuff. And Gold Bar is actually, I think, in pretty fair shape for a lot of things. But what we have is, again, it goes back to finances. The general fund no longer has money that we can use in for stormwater or streets. And so we're looking, we have what's called a councilmatic stormwater utility that we can do. And so here's sort of how we're looking. And I talked to 2 people in the Department of Ecology, and they felt what we were proposing here was pretty good. It's very simple and straightforward. Okay, the big thing is there's property owner responsibilities and city responsibilities. Number 1, all property owners shall be responsible for maintaining their property in a manner that does not allow normal stormwater runoff to leave the property. And you got till 2013 to make this happen. We've got some examples. I don't think this is very onerous. We have some examples inside Gold Bar. And impervious driveways shall be modified to keep stormwater on the property, except for the portion of the driveway that is in the easement area. And we're saying that existing homes are grandfathered in with their driveways. We got several examples. It still needs final review. I think I haven't looked at every house in Gold Bar, but I did drive around looking at a lot of houses houses, and I think with some minor changes, we can achieve a good result. There needs to be some sort of waiver. The Department of Ecology has this. They have thou shalt not do this unless it's a really big storm. And, but they got some adjectives for really big storm, but they don't have any numerical values. So we're gonna try, Bob and I talked about trying to come up, that's what I was talking to Ray earlier, about some sort of metric to determine when it's an exceptional condition. And there's two sets of streets. There's streets with curbs and gutters, and we're gonna ask the citizens to put their effort forth to keep the gutters clear and the of debris and to clean the drain grates. This is not a lot of work for a small area, and other cities are making the same request for the same reasons. Now, the property owners without curbs and gutters, there's a lot of those. They have what I call mini swales or swales in there to keep the swales clear of debris and maintain it in a manner to permit stormwater collecting and drainage. And then we'll stick this along with the other violations of chapter 17. Okay, let's scroll down. That's lots of paragraphs for only one paragraph for the city. And what the city will do is maintenance of all city street stormwater facilities, street sweeping, infiltration system vacuuming, retention pond maintenance, repair of defective infiltration systems, and refurbishing of retention ponds. So right now, what we're looking at is just doing the same thing. We don't have any retention of refurbishing of retention ponds on the map yet, but we do maintain the drains and perform the vacuuming. And there's gonna be some ancillary things that we may put on parking lots that the owners have to do. So let's go down and see how this affects real life. Here's a shot down Orchard. And this is what I call the, this doesn't have curbs and gutters, and it has swales. And everywhere I've driven and seen this is an excellent stormwater system. The water goes off the street into the grass and goes down into the ground. Where it's gravel, you can see there's two sections. If the gravel driveway is well maintained, it absorbs nicely. If it's packed down, it puddles up. But in neither case, it does provide drainage. Let's go to the next one. And this would be okay by the new ordinance. Here's an example of a swale that has been filled in by the property owner. And we have limited things we can do on this. We can tag the cars if they're sitting there too long, but we don't have a real strong ordinance. And one thing this ordinance would do would give us the authority to say, take the dirt out and make it a swale again. And this thing does, when it rains, water puddles out into the street. And it does not puddle out the street on houses south of this place or north of this place. Okay, we'll go to the next one. And here's an example of driveways that are, well, one on the right is an impervious driveway, but there is a gravel section before it gets to the easement area, and got a little bit of impervious driveway past the easement, and the other has no impervious driveway past the easement. Let's go on down. And this is an example of a very large driveway, but this driveway slants backwards, so the rainwater washes off the driveway onto the lot. Even though it's a giant driveway, it doesn't feed into the street. So this one's okay. Here's an example of what's typical throughout the city is a raised impervious driveway that the rainwater will wash into the street. And there's a lot of houses like this. And this one you can see on the right, I think to the left, that the gutters drain into the yard and not into the driveway. And this driveway looks a little bit angled, so some of the rainwater just rushes off to the side. And this is the sort of thing we start looking at as the grandfathered in or easement plus an allowance. Okay, going down one more. Now these two houses are excellent examples of yes and no. The house on the left, this is a 2.5 garage, or it's 3 garage driveway, and it slopes down to the street. But I don't know if you can see it. Can you put the pointer on the right-hand side of the White House. To the right, a little more up. Yay, okay. That is where the gutters drain. They drain off to the side and into the yard, so the stormwater stays on his property except for the driveway. Now go to the small, between the one garage and the two garage and the gray house. To the right. There, okay. This house, the gutters drain onto the driveway. So you can see the dark spot where the rainwater has come in off the roof, into the gutter, down the drain, out the street. And so, under the new ordinance, this would be considered something that would have to be changed, but in that case, you take the drain and you take it off the north side of the gutter and put it on the south side. So it's not terribly onerous, in my opinion. Okay, going down the floor. And then this is an example, a lot of the stormwater ordinances start talking about percent impervious surface, and this rule applies here, and this rate applies there. Here's an area where 65% of the property is impervious, which would trigger all sorts of stuff going on by some rules. But the parking lot has a drain in the middle, so all of the rain that falls, yeah. So all the rain that falls, the parking lot goes into the grate, down into the infiltration system, and I haven't walked the place yet, but I think all of the roof drains stay on the property. So here's an example of a large percentage impervious area, but they meet the base kernel requirement of the Department of Ecology, the stormwater stays in your property. That's the last one. Okay, it's going down. And here's what it works out to be. This is sort of back of the napkin sort of thing. We have stormwater utility we put in the budget, and we need $33,000 to make this run. This is for street sweeping, vacuuming out the gutters, labor, and materials. It's about 700 developed tax parcels. And fat, dumb, and happy start off, we take 33,000 divided by 700 divided by 12, and that leaves $5.24 a month per developed tax parcel. For 2012, that will get us through 2012. That will take care of the problem. We can pay and maintain the streets in good order. And this is for the common streets, the arterials and the main drags. So that's how we're looking at setting this thing up. Yes?
What does the 9 months mean?
Oh, because we're not gonna get the utilities started until April, so we're gonna lose 3 months, January, February, March, getting the thing processed. So the first billing, which would be, on with the water recycle bill, wouldn't hit until April. It takes us that long to write the ordinance, get the hearings and all this other stuff. So that's where we're sitting. And in future times, we start looking at, commercial versus residential versus other things. But again, this is what it costs just to sweep the streets and keep the drains vacuumed out and what do you call it, a jet walk there? When you do the infiltration system. Jet out the lines, yeah. Just simply covers that.
So does
And-
that,
yeah.
I'm sorry, so if we're only collecting for 9 months, does that mean it's gonna be short this year?
No, it means we get
That's what-
33,000.
That's
If,
what we budgeted.
yeah, that's what we budgeted. If we do it over 12 months, it'd be less. But 2013, we'll be able to do it 12 months, so this part will be less, but 2013, we may have to refurbish some retention ponds. And so we don't know. And this will get us through this year. Yes, sir.
So I want to hear public opinions, but one of the things that crosses my mind is that we have nowhere in the budget do we have for snow removal. Snow removal is another form of stormwater, and so why isn't that covered here? Why is it not allowed?
Oh, well, it may be allowed. I mean, we didn't define it that way, because I had figured snow plowing is streets, because that's transportation. John, you want to weigh in on that philosophical?
I think that'd be transportation, not stormwater.
So, and that falls in the general budget.
No, it falls under streets that we don't have money in either.
Right, but that's not a,
Or not.
so this is what you would call an enterprise fund, that would not be, right? That's,
Yeah, because to do that, you have to get the transportation benefit district, which we're allowed to do, with those car tag fees. and Jake Cure would beat me with an open baseball bat if I mentioned that.
Yeah, that's okay, but, yeah, I just wanted clarification on that, because you were talking about sweeping the streets
What?
here, and snow removal crossed my mind.
Well, if it rained instead of snow, it'd be stormwater. So, and when the snow melts, it's like it rained. So you may have a point there. I mean, and we certainly, like I said, we have, the allowance we have in streets is 100 hours of Richard's time. And he spent 40 already in January snow plowing. So, you know, a whole chunk of his annual work on the street time. That's
Right.
exactly what the auditor was talking about. If you ain't got the money in the fund, don't.
Right, exactly, so, and I agree with that, but to the other gentleman's point is, you know, he's paying his taxes, he expects some service. So,
I will zip my mouth on my typical response on that. But if we added snow plowing in here, that would add some number of dollars and the rate would go up. But again, it's not out of the question, that's why we do this.
so I wanna hear public opinion before I decide, but I wanted to throw that out, because that did cross my mind.
Okay, any other council comments?
I'll wait to hear their opinion as well.
Okay.
I do have questions, but I'll wait.